So, recently, thousands of reports have begun to emerge across unofficial and official Warcraft forums of twink players being banned permanently from World of Warcraft content. A huge controversy erupted across the internet, with twinks claiming to have been banned for no obvious reason, and counterclaims that mysterious exploits were secretly being employed. So, what actually happened here? Let's break it down. So, a few days ago, one of my patrons alerted me to the fact that the main forum for twinks, XP Off, contained multiple complaints from players claiming to have been banned. Now, let's just explain what a twink actually is. A twink is a low-level player who chooses to remain at low level and optimizes their weapons and armor at that low level, so they have godlike performance in the content they want to do. Traditionally, twinking has been used in player versus player activity. More recently, interest in twinking has extended to player versus environment content that has grown due to the introduction of scaling technology and time walking. Traditionally, Blizzard have ignored twinking, neither encouraging it nor prohibiting it. There is nothing anywhere about twinking in the terms and conditions. There are two NPCs in the faction capitals of Orgrimmar and Stormwind, Bestin and Stats, who allow you to turn off XP. These NPCs were put in right after the Cataclysm expansion to allow players who wanted to keep twinking to do so. Prior to this time, you didn't gain experience directly from Battlegrounds, so twinks could simply queue up again and again without ever gaining any levels. Interest in twinking in player versus environment content has grown recently. This is due to a decision made in Battle for Azeroth. Blizzard decided to make all low-level mobs adjust to the same level as the player fighting them. This is called scaling technology. The problem with this was that if low-level players have fewer special abilities, which are awarded while leveling up, they tend to underperform higher-level players. So to compensate, lower-level players were made stronger in terms of the basic abilities that they did have access to. As a consequence, players at level 10 are insanely powerful compared to level 50, say. A highly controversial departure from the traditional linear scaling in World of Warcraft. To take full advantage of this, twinks often lock their experience at level 10 and power through dungeons, literally one-shotting multiple mobs. Opinions on this are mixed. Many enjoy being boosted through a dungeon at record speed by a twink. Others claim to want to learn their class and play at a more relaxed pace. So why, after 20 years, are twinks suddenly being banned? The players in question claim to have done nothing that violates the terms and conditions, while others have suggested exploits are being used. First, it is important to understand Blizzard have made no official statement on this, so despite the many accusations levelled at players who have been banned, we do not actually know. So anyone commenting on this issue is speculating. I'm going to offer my own take on this here, which is also speculative, but it is informed speculation. As someone who has been an enthusiastic amateur twink since the start of World of Warcraft and the owner of Blizzard's largest exploit channel on YouTube, I have more direct experience of how and why Blizzard issue bans than most people. So, to start with, it is apparent that while thousands of people have been banned, most twinks have not. This has led to the conclusion that twinks who have been banned are, quotes, doing something, i.e. some exploit or other. Now, I was immediately suspicious of those claims because as an open member of the exploit community, my network is just not giving me that feedback. We are not being disproportionately affected. I'd add that the comments of those who have been banned are not consistent with the type of comments you see from members of the exploit community when they themselves are banned. Generally speaking, we're actually quite proud of it. And we see bans as something inevitable that can't really be avoided. We just accept it and move on. Now, having said that, there are indeed multiple things which could be considered exploits associated with twinking. Most twinks do not use exploits, at least knowingly, but some techniques fall into grey areas. It has been suggested in particular that a method I demonstrated in an earlier video of mine here, involving the use of multiple accounts and multiple characters, to bypass a penalty players grouped with a twink receive in dungeons, is responsible for the bans. I tend to doubt it. There are not that many players who have multiple accounts. The technique in question is often difficult to implement, and only a small minority of twinks would have the skills and patience necessary to pull it off. You have to remember that of all the people that watch my videos, only a tiny minority actually use them. Most people are just too scared to use exploits at all. Moreover, and this is really important, Blizzard have never shown any ability to detect any specific exploit in World of Warcraft. There seems to be a general assumption that Blizzard can simply track and detect any exploit that occurs in their game. This is not and has never been the case. Similarly, they don't have the will or the ability to detect boosting activity, which obviously is running rampant in other areas of the game, such as PvP, completely unchecked. Traditionally, Blizzard relied on player reports to detect exploitative activity, and they followed this up with an investigation by a games master, an employee of Blizzard, who would enter the game and monitor the activity in question, and then issue a penalty to the player in question if necessary. But recently, Blizzard laid off a lot of staff and are increasingly reliant on automated systems to detect exploitative actions by players. This technology is extremely crude. It predates modern artificial intelligence, and in any case, even the most sophisticated AI cannot detect exploits. I know because I spent a lot of money finding that out. The systems Blizzard use still respond to player reports, but without checking to see if the reported player in question has done anything wrong. This has been demonstrated multiple times by various high-profile players. In addition, Blizzard check for volume of play. You can simply be banned for playing too much, regardless of what you do. Last year, the YouTuber Erosium was banned for no reason. We know it was for no reason because after a lengthy campaign, we managed to get his account reinstated, and Blizzard issued an apology. Sadly, multiple other players were banned for the same reasons and didn't manage to get their accounts restored. Read through the comments section on my video about Erosium's situation, and you will see how many people this affected. So that ultimately is likely the reason why these twink players got banned. To protect yourself from bans, my recommendation is simple. Just don't play marathon sessions whilst twinking or doing anything in World of Warcraft. There is probably some amount of play which triggers a switch that causes Blizzard to restrict accounts. Note that most people working at Blizzard are not gamers and have a very conservative idea of what a normal amount of play actually is. In addition to avoiding marathon sessions, it is a good idea to break up your play. Don't do dungeons, say, exclusively, or play exclusively on one character. It is difficult to be certain, but without being an insider at Blizzard, this does seem to reset the system to some extent. Just a word on etiquette in dungeons. A lot of twinks can be really obnoxious with this. Just quit doing that, okay? Wait for people, show some basic respect, make sure everybody's chilled out about you speedrunning. Just don't be a dick, okay? That way you minimize player reports and you just make the player experience a lot better for everyone.